Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Blabbit. For those who may not have been here before, Blabbit's where we bring professionals, experts in their fields, in and we ask them questions so we can learn some of their secrets to add to our arsenal. For those of you who may be joining for the first time, my name is Glenn Ingram. I've been working in coaching, training, and helping people in the sales realm for the better part of the last 2 decades, helping them become better communicators. Good morning, Paul. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Glenn. Good to see you and our esteemed guest returning here to Blabbit. He'll introduce himself in just a moment. But again, for those of you tuning in for the first time, let me take a moment to mention that Blabbit is sponsored by Open Doors. It is the channel that brings back workplace trust. Bring that balance back. That's what it does. We'll get into a few more details about that, maybe near the end of the broadcast. But for those of you who don't know who the heck I am, my name is Paul Geiger. I'm a public speaking coach and presentation expert out of New York City. And it's all about the clarity and not being overwhelmed by the circumstance when it comes to speaking in front of people. I help people do that a whole lot better. Bill, tell everybody about you.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know about the esteemed part. That might have been overselling. But my name's William Huff Jr. Everybody calls me Bill if you're friends, so Bill is fine. Entrepreneur, business owner, marketing agency owner for going on 30-something years, long time. And I very much enjoy meeting small business owners and getting to know them and help them, realize their dreams and grow and scale their businesses and automate things and free up the time that is so precious for all of us so that they can put their time into what's important to them.
Well, thanks for joining us, Bill. Let's start off by, I'm interested to see what you're seeing now in 2022. The biggest, I guess, would say confusion or disconnect that you have to try and talk to business owners to try and help them understand what they should be doing versus maybe what they think they should be doing, or what may seem cool, what might not be cool. What part of consultant/counselor do you have to provide in the spring of 2022?
How much time do we have? It's funny. The list is the same in 2022 as it's been since I've been doing this. The biggest challenge I run into with a business owner is the latest shiny object syndrome, really. Like right now, all the buzz is TikTok. I keep hearing about TikTok videos for business, right? And so, a buddy tells another buddy who's a business owner, oh, I saw this thing on TikTok, you've got to do it. And a lot of business owners don't understand that because something works on this business over here in this realm or this niche or this style does not mean it translates over here, right? Find me a plumber that's got a TikTok channel that's blowing up and that they can track the return from their time and money that they put into making the TikTok video and posting it that's going back into their bank account. I challenge you now, because that's a different platform. It's a different business. It's a different demand. And that's the biggest thing is latest, shiny object, or someone says, I want this and I want it right now. Okay, well, I want to be 6 feet tall with hair, but that's not going to happen right now or ever, right? You have to, all right, you don't go into the doc and go, doc, give me this medication. Doesn't work that way. You go, doc, it hurts when I do this. I've got this thing. He runs tests and he sits down and he asks you questions and he goes, oh, based on everything you've told me, this is what you've got going on and this is what you need. And it's no different for guys like us. And it's just, if that's one thing I could get across and help business owners with, it's like, look, yes, there's a lot of tools out there, right? But you don't build cabinets with a framing hammer. You could, but the cabinets would be really ugly, right? You need a finishing hammer. And once they understand that and you can get them to slow down and then you can go, let's do this. Let's look at your fundamentals. Do you have this baseline? If you don't have that, that's the first thing you fix, because if you don't have the baseline and I flood you with 1,000 phone calls of people that want your business and you can't answer the phone, well, that was a waste of time. Right? We've got to have the fundamentals in place first. And then, okay, once that box is checked and it's consistent, you've got checklists and team and everything that's doing it. Great. What's the next thing that's going to move the needle, or what's the next thing that you want to focus on? What does that require? Cool. Let's go build it, automate it, get it working, get proof of concept. Great. What's the next thing? And then you just methodically build and move your way along, automating and documenting the whole way so that you can duplicate it. And then you go from there.
So you don't typically build a roof, then the floor, then the walls?
Not on purpose.
Well, let me ask you a quick question about trends. And for years, and I think we all kind of know that video, people more and more, they're consuming video more and
Yeah.
more and more. And please dispel this assumption, and then, we'll dig in a little bit into it. But do all businesses need to leverage video in one way, shape, or form? Again, depending on the platform that they're using. But is video an inevitable thing? And for people who are not comfortable with it, how do you get around that, or how do you make that work?
That's a great question. I believe video is here to stay. I think it is a fundamental part of any business. It's all in, again, what is the business? What's the niche? What's the service? What's the product? And how you use it. For example, for someone who's not comfortable on video, right? I learned this from, I think it was Tony Robbins who taught me this. He says, if you're ever, oh, well, Paul, you would know that. If you're ever up in front of somebody, or you're trying to do any public speaking, or you're just trying to talk to someone and you're nervous and fumbling and you can't get through it, it's 99.9% of the time you're worried about you and what you sound like and what you're trying to do versus the goal you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So if you're no good on video, it's because you're saying to yourself, man, I suck at video and I don't want to do this, and blah, 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 right? And then pretty soon you're stammering and you look, you're terrible. Okay.
Right.
The best thing that you can do, just like good copywriting, is write like you talk, or just video like you talk. Like a lot of the videos that I use for my own businesses that are very successful, I just take my iPhone and I turn it around on my ugly mug and I go, hey, it's Bill from so-and-so. And I just walk around and I talk and, and I jiggle and I fumble it and things honk as you go by, right? Those are the most effective videos because they're organic and they're raw and they're real.
Yeah.
So
people like that. People like that authentic.
They want to relate. Why is it that they look at funny cat videos on Instagram or Facebook or whatever? I'm guilty of it too. I've got a dog, and when I see some of the dog videos on Instagram, I crack up because we relate to it.
Glenn, where's your funny dog?
Hey, he's right there. See?
Sits reporting for
There
duty.
we go.
There we go.
We just gained a lot of viewership right there, my friend.
And our IQ went up. But anyway,
so video is here to stay, and it is, I think, a vital part. People are, and I think people prefer. We could probably find the numbers on it. They prefer to consume video, especially because you can speed it up. Like me, I'm a dork that way. When I go to watch any trainings or something, I have to have my video speeder up or on to at least 1.5, so that I can get through it quicker. But I do like it on video, so I can see the visuals and everything. So there's a lot of ways how you can create video. But yes, video's here. It's here to stay. I think based on the business, it's something you definitely want to leverage.
I have a question for both of you, if you wouldn't mind, with regards to this, because with this, no different than I think than public speaking, the biggest obstacle is that 6 inches between our ears. I was just having a conversation on Zoom that I was trying to record with some people a couple days ago, and they were so nervous talking about what they do that if I'd have shut the camera off and been face to face, they would have soared. But they were worried, I'm going to be on camera, I'm going to do this stuff. What are some techniques to get people past it so that they're more comfortable and it just is a conversation instead of worrying about what am I saying, what do I look like, and whatnot?
Right. Can I chime in first, Bill?
100%.
Okay. First of all, don't think that feeling will ever go away altogether. I mean, Bill makes this look easy. Glenn makes this look easy. I'm trying to keep up. And there's always a little bit of nervousness that goes into it because you know that you have an agenda. You are not just wishing somebody happy birthday on your phone. You literally have a reason for doing that. So number one, don't expect that feeling to ever fully go away. And number two, I'm going to use a story. And that is my history as a public speaker goes back to being a performer and being number one on stage, but primarily the story has to do with being on camera. And whenever I would go in to audition for various things, if I made a mistake, the casting directors would always go, or rather before you even start, they'd say, if you make a mistake, just keep going. because very often they would include the mistakes because the person's true humanity and their recovery would be more interesting than their acting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Bill?
True. I 100% agree. I mean, real and raw is what connects us as humans. I mean, one of the big well, we won't get into it, but one of the drawbacks or the things that's been so harmful with this whole COVID thing is the social isolation and the masking. Masking's for the kids, social isolation for people in general. There's all kinds of things we can get into statistics about the negative impact of that, but we are human tribal things by nature. We want to be connected, and real and raw is being connected. The more you can open up and be vulnerable and identify with someone, the more they're going to relate to you. As far as a tip on video and things, like similar to what you said, another one of my marketing mentors, he said, when you're going to go write, or you're going to be on video, or you're going to try to sell, pretend you're sitting at a bar talking to your best friend, and you go, "Hey, tell me about blah, 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 blah." And everybody goes, "Oh, let me tell you about this." Right. And he goes into it. All right. That's how you write. That's how you talk. That's how you do on video. That you just pretend you're sitting at a bar. Your best buddy asks you a question about your thing that you're trying to talk about, and you just look at him in your mind and tell him all about it, just like you would if it was, your buddy Bob. And that never fails for me. Mm-hmm. I've taught thousands and thousands of trainings or lessons. I've been in front of, rooms of hundreds of people speaking, and it never fails for me.
Well, I'll share my inefficiency, if you will, when I was first doing this a decade ago, and all I was doing was trying to talk into it. There was no camera, but it would take me 10, 15 tries just to get across. And then one time I took some photographs for a nonprofit, for a basketball tournament, and I did that voiceover, what you would call it, as Vince McMahon, the big bravado and stuff like that. And it was funny, a couple of weeks later, one of the parents said, "Was that you on the video?" So it was amazing that being a jack, made me more comfortable. And after that's like, what's the big deal? Now you just don't even think about it. So you just have to find somebody to get it past that hesitance, that fear of I'm going to sound ridiculous, that someone's going to laugh at me and things like that.
Sure. And I understand what erodes some confidence in being on video, just getting beyond the nervousness or the obstacle of holding yourself back and lacking confidence. But also you want to make sure that your message is coming across in a clear way. So we're not saying all you have to do is get over the first hurdle to do it well, but we're also not saying don't keep trying to do it. Don't stay in there and believe that the worst critic you will ever face is yourself.
No, 100%. And I know there's things in my life that I have not done because I feared criticism, and I had to really. There's actually one big thing I'm working on launching, and it's the fear of criticism that I'm facing. You have to kind of think to yourself, okay, if let's say I put out a video and, a bunch of trolls on the internet jump on it and start telling me how much I suck. Okay. Well, do you know any of those people? No. Are they your target audience? Probably not. Right. Are they going to come to your house and open up the door and go, you suck on video? No, that's not going to happen. So, what are you worried about? There's nothing to be afraid of.
So I'd like to ask a question here with that, because I think even though we hear about it more from an adolescent point of view, what you mentioned was saying, and it's basically cyberbullying. It's amazing people that will say something online that on a video, they wouldn't say it face to face. They surely wouldn't say it. So
keyboard warriors. Yes,
exactly. So how would you advise people to, again, have a little bit thicker skin and not worry about it, just because people are more willing to comment on something digitally than they would ever do face to face, and they would never be as critical?
Well, I mean, I would start with, do I know this person personally? Right. Okay. If I don't, automatically don't care. Right. Are they my target audience? If they're not, automatically don't care. It doesn't matter. Now, if there's someone you know, like, and trust and respect, and they're your target audience, and they're giving you a hard time, okay, well, you don't have to get mad about it. You have to go, well, that's interesting. What is it that they're saying? Is there any validity in that? I know Me personally, when I get any criticism or feedback or whatever it is, if it makes me mad initially, if my initial reaction is I'm upset or I'm mad, I know that means there's a kernel of truth in it somewhere and I don't like it. That's me personally. Now, again, that's only if it's from someone I know, like, or trust, or my target market. So then I know once I'm mad, okay, shut up, don't say anything, don't do anything, walk it off for 24 hours or less, then go back to it and start tearing it apart. Okay, is it possible? Another thing, a very wise person said to me, and this is part of cognitive behavioral therapy, is where it comes from, is he says, when you're either criticizing yourself and beating yourself up, or someone else is criticizing you and beating you up, emotionally, not physically, of course, or mentally, ask yourself this question: based on what evidence is this true? And then start looking at it. Oh, I'm a loser. Really? Based on what evidence? Specifically. Oh, well, one time 6 years ago, I made a bad mistake and, I don't know, got a divorce, right? Well, great. So you made one mistake 6 years ago and that makes you a loser? Well, no. Well, when you put it that way. Okay, great. So we're not a loser, right? And you see how you kind of work it back, So it's having that, you have to have a thicker skin, but if it's not the target audience, someone you don't know, like, and trust, who cares? Okay. And number next, even though the internet is forever, the internet also forgets. It does, right? Yeah, you can look up stuff that you said naughty 10 years ago, but it's not like it's front and center in front of everybody's face forever. You got to go dig for it. So if you make a mistake or you put out a poor video or whatever else, I mean, I'll tell on myself. I published a book on Amazon about bullying over a decade ago, right? I was very proud of it. And I put it out there and my friends and family are giving me reviews and everything's good. And then the reviews from other people came in and mostly they were good. But the big knock on it was, obviously, someone put, obviously you didn't hire a professional editor because it's got typos and all this other stuff. And at first I was all pissed off about it. I'm like, why didn't you focus on the material to the book? It could have helped people to do this and that. And then I went back and I was like, you're right. I did not professionally edit it. It's got typos and stuff and it's unprofessional. It's still up there. It still sells. I still get people that say, great, this thing helped me. It changed my life, etc. So it's like, okay. I didn't die, right? I still sleep pretty good. I wrote a book. Yay me, right? So, that's hard to do. So anyways, short story long, know who's important to you and whose opinion matters. If they give you something that might hit a nerve or whatever, then take a look at it. Ask yourself, based on what evidence this to be true. And if there's something in there that you can fix, take it and go fix it. Like for me, I need to cough up the money and hire a professional editor.
Same thing. And I understand where this whole conversation is coming from. We're not advising people not to feel the pinch and the ouch. It happens. But like my mother would always say to me, feel sorry for yourself for a little bit and then move on. And then take what you learned and do something. Do something that's going to make you feel better. It's not, I think ignoring it is not, as you were saying, Bill, there are things to be learned. And if somebody is really giving you a criticism that comes from some kernel of truth, then there is a lesson to be learned. So we're not ignoring it, just don't let it twist your tail quite so much.
Yeah. And it's human nature. Any 1000% of human beings, I don't care how evolved you are, it is 1000% human nature. You get criticism or, yelled at or whatever else. Everyone's first reaction is defiance, getting hurt, F you, getting upset. That's what happens in your body. It's how we're wired, right? Back before language and all we had was clubs and dinosaurs and tigers, loud noise screamed in your direction would pick up the club and back up and like, what's going on? That's just how we're wired, right? Yeah. It's recognizing it, being able to control it, deep breath, don't get mad about it, that you got mad, right? We all have these things. Glenn hates them. They're called feelings, right? And you got to learn how to live with them, right?
Okay. I've got another question. How many times in your career, Bill, in your career, Glenn, have you had to remind somebody that marketing is a long game. How often does that happen?
All the time.
Because I know, talking about, like you said right in the beginning of the broadcast, people are going after the shiny new thing. Well, you know, it worked in 2 weeks. They got 1 million followers. But very often, marketing is an extremely long game. True?
No doubt. And this is always, and again, it depends upon the market. It depends upon the product or the service or the person. Is it a brand? Are they an influencer? You know, you never get all the story. Like I had a martial arts business owner and a friend of mine. And I was talking to him like, hey, how's business going? Everything. He's like, oh man, it's great. He goes, I put out a technique video, I don't know, a week or two before, and it got over like 1,000 and something views. And I was like, that's fantastic, buddy. I'm like, how many how many students did you get off of that? He's like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I didn't get any direct business off of it, but I got over 1,000 views. So that's going to lead to business. It's like, okay, he's not wrong. It has the potential to lead the business, right? 1,000 people saw him, saw his logo, saw his name, maybe saw something that was interesting. They see it enough, they might come back. Depending upon where they saw it, you could tag those people and start showing them ads, right? But we get confused. Like I can't take likes and followers and a giant social media footprint and take it to the bank and turn it into money. Like, hey, here's everybody, here's my audience. How much is that worth? And they're not going to give any money for it. The only thing you put in the bank is money, right? But if you've got a giant social media following, I always use this with social media, and you know how to monetize that by investing money into it, into paid ad programs and tracking and everything else, well, now you're on to something. But in the beginning, if you're a brand new business, no followers, no nothing, no incoming phone calls, you need to sell something, I wouldn't be worrying about getting followers, right? I'd be burning, where's my fundamentals? And what do I have to create to turn on a consistent, steady flow of phone calls, leads that turn into customers and everything else, right? What is it from Stephen Covey way back in the day? That's, back in the day, put first things first, right? And it's for people that are new to this, or maybe even old timers, like, oh, of course you guys say that you're all in marketing and sales, you're trying to sell something. Okay, well, don't believe me. Go open a business and go focus on followers and everything else and tell me how it goes. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's your choice. Yeah. It used to be, again, back in the day, I remember being taught in different business trainings and everything else that when you open the business, you have to dedicate 10 to 20% of your gross revenue out of the gate. You have to dedicate that for marketing and sales and advertising, because that's what makes business come in. Right? In today's day and age with the interwebs, you can turn customers on and off like this. I can launch a Facebook ad campaign. Not that it's my favorite. Facebook's on my list right now, but I can launch a Facebook ad campaign and within 24 hours get 10 phone calls from targeted customers that want my offer. That's pretty cool. Right? Depending upon the market you're in, you can start a Google PPC campaign, and in less than 24 hours, you can have phone calls coming in. Like if you're a plumber. Now, depending upon the area, it might be expensive to compete. We won't get into that. But when people need a plumber, electrician, any type of those local home services, it's usually like, they're in their basement with water around their ankles and they've got their credit card out. And they're like, I'm in an emergency. And whoever shows up first, click, and they're going to call them. If you're starting a plumbing business, that needs to be you at the top. So again, I mean, I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but it's about putting, get your fundamentals right. First things first. What is the lifeblood of any new business is consistent incoming, qualified traffic, leads, phone calls, people that need you. If you don't have that system set up to where it's predictable, and what did Dan Kennedy say? He's one of the legendary marketing consultants. He's like, look, you need to solve the problem in business owners' heads that they lay their pillow with. What's running through their head at night that's keeping them up, right? What's getting them a knot in their stomach? Most of them, like, how am I going to make overhead? How am I going to do this? I mean, I got started in marketing. I was a bricks and sticks business owner. I still own that business, but I got started in studying marketing to learn it a billion years ago because I was good at, I was good at what I did. My service was very good. I was good if people walked into my business to sit down and sell them. If they called my business, I was good on the phone. I could get them to come down. What I had no idea of and what I hated is like 1 month, every sales 0 to 0 every month, right? 1 month I could bring in 20 new clients and it'd be fantastic. And the next month I'd get 2. And the next month I'd get 6. And the next month I'd get 0. And then the next month I'd get 18. And then the next month it was just up and down and up and down. And every night I'm like laying in bed, like, I don't know how to make this thing consistent so that I'm, confident that every month we're going to grow and do this. Mm-hmm. And that's how I started studying it. And that's why now I shifted to this because, knowing how to do it's kind of a superpower for small businesses. If you know how to turn traffic on and get it set up and the automations and everything else and build teams, it doesn't matter what business you go into, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. And back to a comment that Bill made about 10, 15 minutes ago, it depends. One thing I always ask business owners is, what do you have more of right now, time or money? If you have money, you can do whatever you want. If you don't and you just have more time, then it's going to take some more time, because we don't all have the budgets that Microsoft, that Apple, that all these people are spending each year, or each month, each day to do marketing and advertising. So it just depends. But with anything you're going to do, typically what takes a little bit longer, what you put a little bit more effort in, is going to give you better results. It doesn't matter if you're learning how to perform your trade, your skills, developing a product, or developing a marketing campaign. The more that someone is putting into it, either you or someone on your behalf, the better it's going to be for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was once told, I think it was Dan Kennedy I read it from, branding is what happens when you're around for a long time selling a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. That's when you become a brand. And so many businesses I see just come out of the gate focusing on the wrong thing. Oh, we want to build our brand. Okay, well, unless you're Coke, right? Or unless you've got millions of dollars to work with, quit worrying about being a brand and worry about selling stuff.
Yeah. Now, what about obviously we're not, well, no, I shouldn't really say that we're not talking to the people at Coca-Cola or Facebook or any of these big brands, but I'm assuming that our audience is more small business owners and, they're not selling a ton of stuff. So if you are a small business owner or you're a one-man shop, one-woman shop, whatever it is, how do you know who to trust as a marketer? Are there any guidelines? Because everybody is going to say, I can do that for you, or else they wouldn't be out there hanging their shingle as being a marketer. So as much as it would be wonderful if everybody worked with you, Bill, or with you, Glenn, or with me, they're not going to. So what's the advice? Just good advice, like the respected uncle who's going to give you advice about who to trust. Who do you trust? What do you look for?
I'm going to chew on that one for a second. Glenn, you want to start?
Yes. Look for someone that asks more questions than talks, because inevitably I'm still on calls with people that are, one of my customers say, hey, this person wants to sell me this. What do you think about it? And so I'll jump on a call with them. And if someone's talking a lot about themselves and not wanting to learn about your business, they're probably not a true consultant. They probably don't have your best interest at heart, because all they're trying to do is sell you on what they can do, instead of taking the time to get to know Paul, to get to know Bill, like Bill was saying. So when I know what you're doing, when I know how large your business is, when I know what your budgets are and stuff like this, then I can help build something that's customized for you, instead of just trying to do a one size fits all. This will work for everybody. There is nothing that we do that specifically will work for everybody. A version of it will, but not one model. Mm-hmm. So if they're not taking the time to learn about you, to actually put together a plan, if they say, if let's say they want to talk and learn from you, and then they immediately say, okay, here's exactly what we're going to do. Did they really take time to think about what you said, or are they just listening to you and they already have a plan put together in the back of their head that they're ready to spit out? So I think just talking with people that are going to take the time to learn about you and give you something that's for you, because inevitably when I'm talking to people, half the time I'm talking them out of doing things more than talking them into doing things.
We're going through that right now. Glenn and I are laughing about it because I've tried not to get a bunch of business lately and I wound up getting it. which is a whole nother story because it's like, look, no, you don't need this. No, but we really want it. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, you don't need, and it's funny how that goes. Glenn's right. He's right on there. If someone comes out or, reaches out to you cold or whatever else, and they're trying to sell you a thing, that's my first warning sign. There's big, there's the HubSpots of the world, and there's big marketing firms or platforms out there, and they're trying to sell you a thing. I know for me, I know what differentiates what I do and my team and Glenn does, and where people have told me, wow, you were the only one that did blank. I never try to sell anybody anything. The first thing I do is I'm like, look, I'm going to take you through basically what I call an online physical. I need to sit down with you and talk to you. I need to know about your business, your niche. What are you selling? What do you want to sell more of? What's the most profitable? Where do you want to go? How much do you want to grow? Where are your problems? What's keeping you up at night? And then I go and I tear apart everything that they have online. I do a deep dive. I shoot a video while I'm doing it. I look at all their web properties, whether they own it or not. I look at their competitors, and I break it all down in a big video. And I say, look, here's your problems. Here's how we can help it. Here's where your competitors are kicking your butt. And if you want to talk about how we can solve all this for you, great, let's sit down and do that. And I will do that before I ever try to pitch them anything. Because it's like going to the doctor. I can't tell you how to fix it until I know what you got going on. So if someone doesn't sit down and do that level of a deep dive before they start talking about what they can help you with or what you probably ought to buy or do, that's to me is like that's a warning sign.
It's interesting. This definitely leans into what I've always said, which is my work, presentations, public speaking, as intricate and complex as people may think it is. I think it's a lot simpler than what you guys do. I think that there are actually less moving parts that go into it, but it's the convincing of people that they can actually do this. And there's, it just feels like there are so many variables. But then again, it really comes back to a point you brought up before, Bill, which is fundamentals. It's the same thing in any business. You have to know what those fundamentals are. Mine are a little bit different in terms of what I do, what I provide, what I'm able to guide and assist and gain results on. But it's very similar just in terms of, you've got to know what the blocking and tackling is really all about.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think if you're not willing to give something to somebody and all you're worried about is trying to sell them, again, whose best interest do you have at heart? I was just on the call yesterday with Greg Stanley. Remember, he was on our show here a couple months ago. And he was talking about, I asked him what he was doing and what he was having problems with. And I never tried to sell him anything. I said, have you thought about this? You may want to try that. And just walked him through some things. But yeah, some people would say, if you want this information, it's $500, it's $1,000. But you know what? If you can't build that rapport, if you can't build that trust by giving something to somebody, again, are you worried more about their wallet or your wallet?
Well, it depends upon the business owner too. There's a large percentage of them out there that will, if you take the time to get them and help them understand what's going on, they'll be like, okay, I understand. I see what I need. Can you do that for me, please? And then you're like, well, sure. But after you've walked through everything and built the trust and they know, like, and trust you, and they can see that you're competent and you can help them, 9 times out of 10, they're like, yes, please. Just how much is it? When can you get started?
Now, aside from making the decision of working with a good marketing consultant, is it a matter of working with or working for? In other words, do you do it for them, or is it something that you need buy-in? Again, aside from just, this is something that I do need to do, how involved do the business owners get in that marketing?
Well, that's up to them and their personality and what they want to do. I'm pretty good at identifying who's going to be a bad client as far as I'm going to do this for your business and help you. I can identify very quickly if a business owner is going to be a bad fit for that. Right. And as soon as I know that, I'm like, okay, cool. Best thing for you is to learn how to do this stuff yourself. I've got the resources that can help train you. You can be a part of this program. We'll meet once a month or once a week. I'll give you homework assignments, and then you'll go do it. It's kind of the done with you program. And if you're the right personality for a done with you program, they're fantastic. right? And
Mhm.
coming from my standpoint, if I know you're a bad fit for the done for you, it doesn't matter how much you're paying me, it's awful, right?
Right.
Because they're texting you at 1:30 in the morning, how come this thing isn't working like you said it would? And you're just like, oh my God, we've covered this 15,000 times. I told, and then
Mhm.
finally, just it doesn't go well. So, learning how to identify that, right up front is really good. But I think every business owner, this is again another Dan Kennedy thing, says, you never give up control of the marketing, advertising, or the checkbook, right? And the corollary to that, as far as don't give up the marketing, advertising, it's you have to know enough as a business owner to understand what's BS and what's not. Like to be able to note, to be able to talk the same language as someone that's qualified to help you with your marketing or to do it for you. You don't have to be an expert, but you at least have to have a basic fundamental understanding of it so
Mhm.
that you can make sure you go, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. We've worked on a plan. I know he's executing it. We're good to go. I don't have to worry about this part, just checking in on it once in a while. Because as the business owner, if you're trying to grow and scale something, you have to think like a CEO. You have to have divisions and you have to have people in charge of things, and they report to you and you help with the strategy and push back down to them and help with training if you need to, but you also have to rely on them, right? No CEO that I know is an HR expert. That's what they have HR experts for, right? Not that CEOs can't be HR experts. That's not what I'm saying. Not a knock on HR people. So yeah, it's based on personality, and I would strongly advise all business owners to get at least a basic understanding of your marketing and advertising for your niche, just so that you don't get sold something that you don't need, or someone comes along with a shiny object. Again, going back to shiny object, I get that all the time. Business owners calling me, hey, I just heard about this thing, what do you think? Good example. For anybody that's familiar with the Google My Business listing, or your Google Maps listing for your businesses, your local businesses, I had a client call me. He's like, hey, one of my locations got 3,200 search views on Google My Business last month. How do we monetize that? So I'm like, well, there's another section of that report that tells you how many people called or asked for directions from those 3,200 searches. And then I started doing a deep dive with Glenn and other people in the network. And we found out that there aren't a lot of people or a lot of ways that you could actually turn your Google My Business Maps listing into a trackable, legit lead generation tool like you can a website page, right? Or an ad.
Right.
It's just not out there. But this client saw 3,200 searches and he thought, oh man, if I can just get that fixed, I can get all my business from there. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Right. It's again, the analogy that I try to get across to people that helps them understand is marketing and advertising, all the platforms, tools, ads, everything else. It's like spokes on a wheel. Each one is an individual spoke, and it all leads to the hub, which is your business and your website, right? No one, if you have a wheel with one spoke, you have a flat, right? It's just going to crumble and crush, right? There is no one secret magic pill out there that is going to skyrocket your business to where you want it to go. You have to have a well-rounded, trackable, systemized approach. Facebook ads, Google ads, possibly YouTube ads, maybe TikTok videos. I'm not saying no, but maybe that, right? If you want to do maybe blog posts, right? All your directories, maybe you do public events out in town, but all you do it consistently and structured, month in, month out, all leading to here. And that consistency over time and that approach dominates. I mean, crushes it. But you got to build it, and you have to be patient, and you got to track it, and sometimes one of the spokes is going to break and you got to get in there and put in a new one, right? Or maybe something comes along and you're going to add a spoke. That's cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have that mentality and you understand that, then you get less of this whipsaw. Oh, we got to do TikTok. Oh, we got to do this. Oh, we got to do that. Oh, it's like, da, 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 da. Do you have a plan? What's it look like? Are we executing on all those? Are we tracking it? Cool. Now we can look and see, is this thing going to move the needle or not?
Well, and I think one thing, Paul, you have to take a look at when with whom you're working with from a customer standpoint or the marketing standpoint is, are they working with you or is it us versus them? And I think a lot of it comes down to what we talk about on here periodically about authenticity and congruency. Because if you don't have the business owner up there talking the videos, like you said, so you know kind of what type of service they're looking for. Because when someone has a problem, they're looking online for someone to help them, to take care of them, to pull them in and squeeze them and say it'll be okay. So if you don't have that, if the verbiage that's out there in the ad Bill's talking about or the website or whatever isn't, again, consistent with when I call and Paul answers the phone, I want to know kind of what I'm dealing with, who I'm looking for, what's happening when I make that phone call, when I fill out that form. So if you don't have authenticity, if you don't have congruency, you're going to have less people that actually say, here's my credit card, let's go to work.
Yeah. And I know marketing is very much eyes on content, but tell me what comes to mind when I say this phrase, know your data.
I think there was just a football game last weekend, and I think they kept score at it.
Yeah.
Because that's how we determine if we win or lose, isn't it?
Exactly. In other words, understand, going back to what Bill said, understand, is that generating more calls? How many calls is it generating every week, every month, every quarter? How many of those become discovery calls? How many of those become eventual sales? So you've got to know all these numbers.
Back to the phrase I said earlier, based on what evidence, right? You got to be able to track this stuff, right? Know your numbers, know the incoming, know your close, know all your percentages, but then also what are the industry percentages? Like if you don't know what a good percentage is, how do you know what you're trying to hit? Right. Like in Google PPC campaigns, depending upon the type of campaign, a 3% conversion rate, you're a superstar. Well, 3% conversion rate in other styles of ads is abysmal. You're failing miserably. But if you don't know that, then you're like, oh, woohoo, I'm killing it, right? I remember when I first, I think one of my first PPC campaigns I ever did was like 2.5% conversion rate. And I didn't know that was good. So I was freaking out. I started, working with different PPC consultants and everything else. And I said, well, this was my first crack at it. And this is what I got. And I'm like, it's terrible. And he's like, 2.5% out of the gate. It's like, dude, that's really good. I'm like, it is? It's like, I thought it was terrible, and there's other people out there that might be PPC people like, what are you talking about? I get 10 and 20 and 30%. I'm like, okay, well, like I said, depending upon the campaign and what you're selling and where and everything else. But, for what I was doing, that 2.5%, they're like, you should run around with your hair on fire. And I'm like, well, I can't, but, so yeah, you got to know your numbers and, you just have to be able to track everything. There's, what's his name? Garrett White from the Wake Up Warrior. He's making millions a years coaching married business owners. And one of the things that he emphasizes in all his business programs is he calls it optics. Now, I don't personally like that phrase because when I think of optics, I think of like, how does something look? Like it might not, the optics is it's really good, but it might be bad. But he uses optics as reporting, tracking. What are your numbers?
Right.
So, once I got around that hang up, I'm like, okay, he's just talking about knowing your numbers. And and he's Dan Kennedy, same thing. All the greats, they all talk about you have to know your numbers cold.
So 2 questions. First question real quick for our audience that doesn't maybe know what PPC is. Will you kind of explain what that is? And then secondly, will you talk about some of these different marketing platforms like you were talking about and generally, kind of give our audience some ideas as far as short-term, long-term, kind of some things that maybe they should know so they can ask someone that's talking to them about marketing or advertising to see what their responses are, to know if they are truly offering them a service or trying to sell them a product.
Okay. Can we do screen sharing on this thing or no? I can explain it, but if I could screen share, I could just do a search and show them, but I'll just explain it. So Google PPC is Google pay-per-click. It's been called Google AdWords. Now I believe they just call it Google Ads. But if you can visualize your phone or your desktop, like if you put in a search, plumber near me, right? Across the top, you're going to see like 3 ads, and they're going to have like a green check mark, and it's going to say Google guarantee, and it's going to list the business. Okay, that top part is the Google local home services or Google's pay per phone call program, pay per lead, right? So if you're in that program and that's your ad and someone clicks on it and calls you, you're going to pay for that phone call. You only pay if they call, right? That's it. The section below that, there should be 3 ads listed this way, vertically. My brain wasn't working. Vertically, right? And
Is that just because you never liked vertical?
Yeah, it's probably, because I'm vertically challenged. 3 ads listed vertically, right? And those are Google's pay per click or Google ads. So the way that works is if someone clicks on your ad, you pay for the click. If they call you or not doesn't mean anything, but if you click on the ad, that person's going to go to your dedicated ad or wherever you send them, and then they're going to make the decision whether they call or fill out the form or whatever. That's Google's pay-per-click program. Below that, you'll see a picture of a map and 3 listings. That's Google Maps section. And then below that section is what they call Google Organic Search, or where the SEO is. Okay, so it goes local home services, pay-per-click, maps, organic, right? So all of those, like what I try to do with my local clients, now Google Local Home Services does not service every niche that's out there for local business. Typically, it's only locksmiths, garage door, plumbers, electricians, that kind of stuff, home services, right? But if I've got a client that's Google has a category for them and they've got the budget, I will try to get them in the local home services. I'm not on camera. The local home services, the pay-per-click, get their maps optimized and ranking, and get their website so that they've got 4 spots on the front page, 4 shots at all that business. That's what I call, front page domination personally. And, that's what I try to get for everybody. So those are platforms you can use. And then you can integrate that. YouTube has YouTube ads, right? Facebook ads, right? And if you're got a good fundamentally built website, you ought to be ranking organically. If you have a good Google local maps and you've got that optimized, that ought to be ranking and showing up on the front page. Any of those properties, you can put tracking code on. And Facebook ads, if you're driving them to a website, there should be tracking codes you can put on there. So if someone hits your Facebook ad and doesn't buy and decides to go elsewhere, you should be able to follow them with an ad, what's called retargeting. Right, that should be a part of your strategy. If someone clicks on your Google ad, goes to your landing page, decides not to do it, you ought to be able to tag them, and then they go over to Facebook and they're turning around. All of a sudden, your ad shows up on Facebook too. How'd that happen? Well, you visited my Google page, landed on it, right? You didn't do anything, but because I know you landed on it, now I can show you an ad over here. This is just all part of a strategy. All these platforms can tie together,
and it's all automated. In other words, automated. You get tagged, you get retargeted.
Yeah, right. It's all automated. That's all part of, properly structured campaigns and everything on all those different platforms. Now, LinkedIn is another platform that can be very, very lucrative. But to play in LinkedIn, you better have money. It's not cheap. It's very expensive compared to the other platforms. And right now, even though it's been around forever, it's people are like freaking out. It's kind of like the Wild West of marketing platforms now, is the combination of YouTube and TikTok, because Facebook is having their issues that aren't just related to marketing, right? And their platform, right? And then tech in general is kind of having issues, if you know what I mean. Some people are getting fed up with it and they're looking for alternatives. And YouTube is one of the beneficiaries of that right now, even though, they've been caught up in some of the quote tech issues as well. That's a platform that is expanding or gaining more traction as something that can generate business for local businesses.
So if I hear you right, basically everything you're doing, an ad on Facebook, an ad on YouTube, you want to treat that like it's a salesperson. You want to know what results they're bringing in for you, so that way you can determine if you're going to retain that salesperson or not, so you know exactly what you're getting for what you're spending.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're getting, we had a personal injury client in Las Vegas. It was costing us about $450 to $500 for a lead because the market was so competitive and it was so expensive. And then we found a platform where we were getting leads for $150. So I had to go back to the client, and he wanted to stay and spend the $450 to $500 because it was on a bigger platform where everybody saw it more often. And I'm like, that's fine. I go, but we're paying triple to quadruple to be there to be seen versus over here. This is what makes you more money. But he didn't care because he had a lot of money to spend. I'm like, okay, I'll spend it. right? But, knowing those numbers, depending upon who you are and if budget's a concern, you would go, well, let's get rid of the 450 a lead and let's focus on the 150 a lead. That's basic math.
Yeah. And I mean, you're bringing up the concept for people who are new, possibly dipping their toe in the marketing pool. You got to spend some money to make money, is really what it comes down to. I mean, you have to be prepared to do that. And it's not because you said it, Bill or Glenn or I. It's a competitive world out there. You've got to be able to cut through the noise.
We've been in the game long enough, if you can't tell, right? But we're the generation that was pre-interwebs, right? I remember running my local bricks and sticks retail business off the Yellow Pages and Penny Saver and Valpak, and there was no internet. So, back in the day, you could have a storefront business and you could survive just by walk by and drive by and referral and maybe an ad in the Yellow Pages, and you would live. You'd be fine, right? It was harder to track, right? And it was harder to do something consistency and scale it, but you could do that. That's not the case anymore. That's just not how things have changed, right? And I still have business clients that, how do I say that? I still have clients that still act like it's the late 80s, 1990s when it comes to like pre-interwebs, when it comes to their local storefronts. You're like, no, we're just going to open in a high traffic center, and between the drive-by and the walk-by and referral, we'll be fine. No, they struggle, right? It takes them forever to get profitable, and they never really blow up to the point where they're like, look, we can't take on anymore. I mean, I've had multiple clients, and this is not a humble brag, but this is just the reality of what it can do when you do it right. I have been fired, or I've had my retainer and my programs paused because the business owner called me and said, turn it off. I do not have any more staff. I am full. I cannot handle any more business right now.
That's right. If you can't answer the phone.
Sucks when you get fired for doing a good job, but I'm actually no bullshit, no Pinocchios, nothing's going to grow. Right? Oh, I said a bad word. Sorry. No, nothing's going to grow. I was happy for him. I'm like, good. I am pumped for you. Call me when you're ready for more business. And do you have any friends that, might want to get too much business? I was genuinely happy for them. And they came back when they needed more. They came back, said, hey, turn it back on again. And then, 3 months later, turn it off. Right. And it just, so, it can be that way. It can actually be that way. And that's a happy problem to have.
Is it always a matter of looking at the business and wondering in this day and age, how can I scale this? Is that a really important question? Should it be obvious, or does it require adjustment on the part of the business? In other words, we've always done things in this way, step by step.
Right.
Is it always, do the processes and systems within the company then have to adjust to marketing as well? They have to be scalable?
Yes. And I think as part of our sitting down and getting to know them is, do you want to grow and scale? Yeah. Do you want to? Like, how big do you want to, I have a garage door repair client. Love the guy. Does great work. He's one of the few things, he's a unicorn because he's honest, right? And when it comes to garage door repair. And I've told him multiple times, Marty, I can, you want to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 trucks, all of our county, whatever, I can help you do that. And he's like, nope, I don't want to do that. He goes, I'm good just as a one-man shop. You keep me busy Monday through Friday and, emergency calls on Saturday, and I'm happy. I'm like, okay, no problem.
And I think if someone's trying to sell you something and they're not asking that question, hang up the phone and run. Because especially in this great resignation, a lot of people have started a business to create a job for themselves, not really to create a company that can sustain without them. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't know that, and if you don't know what they're trying to do, like Bill was just saying, you may hurt their reputation more by giving them more business than they can handle. So you need to find out what Paul wants to do this year, next year, and the year after that. That way you can truly be a consultant and help them.
Yeah. I mean, providing a service is not the same as running a business.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
can, those can be two roles, those can be two responsibilities that you have, but they don't always go hand in hand, and one does not preclude the other.
Well, and to follow up on the question that you asked, yes, if they go, yeah, I do want to grow and scale, well, then you have to go, all right, well, do you have all of your systems and processes SOP'd out? SOP stands for Standing Operating Procedure for the military, for those of you that weren't in the military. And, because if you don't have everything videoed and written out, as far as it's what I call, this is how we do shit around here, is what I call it. Right.
Yep.
If you can't bring on a new staff member and their job is the front desk, and you can't go, here's the front desk manual, here are all the front desk training videos, go away for the weekend, read all this and come back, and I'm going to drill you on it. And then we're going to start your OJT, on the job training. Right. If you don't have those systems and processes built, you're not going to be able to grow and scale. It's not going to happen. I can grow and scale your marketing to the moon if you got the money, but you have to have the location and the staff and the training set up so that you can do that, right? So that you can grow and scale.
Yeah.
And with that, when you're thinking about that, make sure that person that Bill just trained to do the front desk has an ounce of sales ability, because if Bill makes that phone ring, guess who has to convert it? Yeah. Probably your lowest paid employee that's answering the phone.
Oh, it's the worst. It is the worst when I run marketing reports and tracking and call reports for my clients, because I have clients that have multiple locations, and they're the ones that I'm liaising with, and they're paying me, and I'm creating all the ad campaigns and driving all the traffic to the locations. And I've got the locations on the follow-up system going, hey, you're getting the notifications. Here's everything is in your lap, and I can track everything down to when they land there. And then the principals call me and they're like, well, how many new students or new business did we get out of this month's marketing campaign? I'm like, well, I delivered, 56 new phone calls last month for this location. Well, how many turned into business? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not in charge of that. Right. I'm only in charge of getting them there and showing what happened while you were talking to them. But as far as them turning into business, that's out in the look. I can't do anything with that. Right. So if you're trying to grow and scale, right, I'm like, look, you're going to have to figure something out there. I'll sit and help you try to figure it out, but I can't drive down to the office and enroll them for you. Not my job. Right. And I work nationwide, so it would be very expensive. That's something that needs to get addressed so that you can track it and also be able to grow and scale it.
Yep. Well, Glenn,
the time has leaked through again. I don't know where it goes.
An hour already?
Yes,
already?
sir.
I'm a big old windbag. I talk too much.
Not at all, Bill. This is all great stuff. And our audience, I'm sure that they appreciate it. And we appreciate you making a return to Blabbit. Good to see you.
It's my pleasure. It's always fun to get with like-minded individuals and see if we can help people out.
Like Paul mentioned in the beginning, this broadcast is brought to you by Open Doors, your professional podcast and corporate communication experts. Bill, should somebody want to reach out and contact you, what's the best way to communicate?
You can hit my website, superchargedmarketingsystems.com, and drop us a note there. We're on the Facebook. I'm on Twitter as William Huff Jr. Not that I use Twitter much. It's a sewer. It is. But Twitter ads also, you can make money with Twitter ads. I don't have to like it. I just have to do it. Right. An email is info@superchargedmarketingsystems.com. So, and I'm on the Facebook, William Huff Jr. as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks a lot, everyone. We'll see you back here, same time, same channels next week. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Be well.